Question 1. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new, unapproved digital grading system for the ALMA University entrance exam could significantly reduce grading time and associated labor costs. However, this system has not undergone any review or approval process by the ALMA University entrance exam's governing body, and its data security protocols are unknown. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Reject the new digital grading system outright, as any deviation from the established and approved grading procedures for the ALMA University entrance exam would compromise the integrity and fairness of the examination process, regardless of potential cost benefits. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the new digital grading system's cost-benefit merits and potential risks, but delay any decision on implementation until after the current examination cycle has concluded to avoid any disruption. Option C. Implement the new digital grading system on a trial basis for a small subset of exams, with the understanding that if any issues arise, it will be immediately discontinued, allowing for potential future cost savings. Option D. Proceed with the implementation of the new digital grading system, as the cost savings and efficiency gains are substantial and outweigh the potential unquantified risks. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the implementation of the new digital grading system, as the cost savings and efficiency gains are substantial and outweigh the potential unquantified risks. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the potential benefits of a new initiative against its associated risks and compliance obligations, all within the specific regulatory framework of the ALMA University entrance exam. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring that any proposed action adheres strictly to the exam's established rules and guidelines, which are designed to ensure fairness, integrity, and a consistent testing experience for all candidates. A superficial understanding of cost-benefit analysis, without a deep appreciation for the absolute priority of regulatory compliance, can lead to significant ethical and procedural breaches. The correct approach involves prioritizing the examination's regulatory framework above all other considerations when evaluating the feasibility and implementation of any new initiative. This means that any proposed change, regardless of its potential cost savings or efficiency gains, must first be assessed for its compliance with the ALMA University entrance exam's specific rules, guidelines, and any associated legal or ethical mandates governing university admissions testing. If a proposed initiative, even one with a positive cost-benefit ratio, would violate or compromise the integrity of the examination process as defined by the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework, it must be rejected or significantly modified. This approach ensures that the fundamental principles of fairness, equity, and adherence to established procedures are upheld, which are paramount in any high-stakes examination context. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial benefits of a new initiative without adequately considering its impact on regulatory compliance is fundamentally flawed. Such an approach risks undermining the credibility and fairness of the examination. For instance, proposing to streamline a part of the examination process by reducing the number of proctors, even if it saves money, would be unacceptable if the ALMA University entrance exam's regulations mandate a specific proctor-to-candidate ratio to ensure test integrity. This failure to adhere to mandated procedures constitutes a direct regulatory violation. Another incorrect approach might involve adopting new assessment technologies that, while potentially more efficient, have not been vetted for compliance with the ALMA University entrance exam's established standards for question security, data privacy, or accessibility for all candidates. This oversight represents a failure to conduct due diligence regarding regulatory requirements. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the governing regulatory framework. Before any cost-benefit analysis is conducted, the potential initiative must be screened against all relevant rules and guidelines. If the initiative appears to conflict with any regulatory requirement, the analysis should immediately pivot to exploring compliant alternatives or modifications. The primary objective is not simply to find the most cost-effective solution, but to find the most compliant and ethically sound solution that also offers benefits. This requires a proactive and risk-averse mindset, where adherence to established standards is the non-negotiable baseline. Question 2. Market research demonstrates that prospective students are highly influenced by the perceived career success of graduates when choosing a university program, ALMA University is developing promotional materials for its flagship Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies program. Which of the following approaches best adheres to the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for university admissions and marketing within the ALMA University entrance exams jurisdiction? Option A. Provide a comprehensive overview of typical graduate career paths, supported by anonymized data on employment rates, average starting salaries, and common sectors of employment for recent graduates, along with a disclaimer that individual outcomes may vary. Option B. Emphasize the exceptional career achievements of a select few high-profile alumni, showcasing their rapid ascent to leadership positions in prestigious international organizations, while using general statements about the program's value. Option C. Focus on the aspirational nature of the program, highlighting its ability to foster critical thinking and global awareness, and suggesting that these skills inherently lead to successful and fulfilling careers without providing specific employment data. Option D. Include testimonials from graduates who have secured positions in their desired fields, but omit any information about the overall employment statistics or the time it took them to find employment. The correct answer is B. Emphasize the exceptional career achievements of a select few high-profile alumni, showcasing their rapid ascent to leadership positions in prestigious international organizations, while using general statements about the program's value. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's need to attract students with the ethical and regulatory obligation to provide accurate and non-misleading information. The ALMA University entrance exams regulatory framework, which is assumed to be the sole governing jurisdiction for this question, likely emphasizes transparency, fairness, and the prevention of deceptive practices in recruitment and admissions. Misrepresenting program outcomes or career prospects can lead to significant reputational damage, student dissatisfaction, and potential regulatory scrutiny. The correct approach involves presenting a realistic and evidence-based outlook on graduate career paths, supported by verifiable data and clear disclaimers about the variability of individual outcomes. This aligns with the principles of truthful advertising and responsible recruitment, ensuring prospective students can make informed decisions based on accurate information. Regulatory guidelines for educational institutions typically mandate that marketing materials reflect actual program strengths and graduate employment statistics, avoiding hyperbole or guarantees of specific career success. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting the most successful alumni without acknowledging the broader range of outcomes is misleading. It fails to provide a balanced perspective and can create unrealistic expectations, potentially violating regulations against deceptive advertising. Another incorrect approach that omits any mention of the challenges or competitive nature of the job market for graduates would also be considered a failure to disclose material information, which is often a regulatory requirement. Finally, an approach that uses vague or aspirational language without concrete data to back up claims of guaranteed career advancement is ethically questionable and likely non-compliant with regulations requiring factual representation. Professionals in university admissions and marketing should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes accuracy and transparency. This involves 1. Understanding the relevant regulatory framework and ethical codes governing educational institutions. 2. Gathering verifiable data on program outcomes, including employment rates, salary ranges, and common career paths. 3. Presenting this data in a clear, balanced, and easily understandable manner, including appropriate disclaimers. 4. Regularly reviewing marketing materials to ensure they remain accurate and compliant with evolving regulations and best practices. Question 3. The control framework reveals that a candidate for the ALMA University entrance exam has been anonymously sent a package containing what appears to be advanced study materials claimed to guarantee a significant advantage. The candidate is aware that such materials are not officially sanctioned, and their use would violate examination rules. Which of the following actions best upholds the regulatory framework of the ALMA University entrance exam? Option A. Share the advanced study materials with other candidates to help them prepare, believing it promotes broader access to knowledge. Option B. Discreetly use the advanced study materials to improve their chances of admission, assuming the risk of detection is low. Option C. Ignore the package and its contents, hoping the issue resolves itself without any action. Option D. Immediately report the receipt of the unauthorized materials to the ALMA University entrance exam administration and refrain from using them. The correct answer is D. Immediately report the receipt of the unauthorized materials to the ALMA University entrance exam administration and refrain from using them. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate conflicting priorities between academic integrity and the potential for personal gain or reputational damage. The pressure to perform well on a university entrance exam, especially one with significant implications for future opportunities, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. However, the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework strictly prohibits any form of academic dishonesty, emphasizing fairness and equal opportunity for all candidates. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the examination rules and regulations, which includes refraining from any unauthorized assistance or materials. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity, ensuring a level playing field and a true assessment of each candidate's knowledge and abilities. The regulatory framework for the ALMA University entrance exam, by its very nature, mandates honesty and prohibits any actions that could compromise the validity of the examination process. This approach upholds the ethical standards expected of all candidates and future students. An incorrect approach would be to accept or utilize unauthorized study materials provided by an external party, even if presented as a guaranteed advantage. This directly violates the ALMA University entrance exam's regulations against cheating and academic misconduct. Such an action undermines the integrity of the examination and could lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential blacklisting from future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the suspicious nature of the advanced materials and proceed with using them without seeking clarification or reporting the incident. Passive acceptance of potential misconduct is also a failure to uphold the regulatory framework. It implies a willingness to benefit from an unfair advantage, which is contrary to the principles of academic honesty. A third incorrect approach would be to share these unauthorized materials with other candidates. This not only constitutes academic dishonesty for the individual, but also actively contributes to a wider breach of examination integrity, potentially impacting the results and fairness for numerous other applicants. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve a clear understanding of the ALMA University entrance exam's rules and regulations. When faced with a situation that appears to offer an unfair advantage or involves potential misconduct, the professional course of action is to immediately cease any engagement with the questionable materials and report the incident to the appropriate examination authorities. This demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and upholds the integrity of the examination process. Question 4. Benchmark analysis indicates that prospective students preparing for the ALMA University entrance exam often seek to maximize their performance. Considering the strict regulatory framework of the ALMA University entrance exam, which mandates adherence to specific guidelines for all candidates, which of the following actions best exemplifies compliance with these regulations during the examination period? Option A. Accessing a digital document on a personal device that contains summaries of historical exam topics and potential essay prompts for quick reference during the exam. Option B. Discussing the types of questions expected with a peer who has already taken the exam to better prepare for the format and content. Option C. Referring to a personal set of flashcards containing key definitions and formulas that were created for general study purposes, but not explicitly permitted for use during the exam. Option D. Utilizing only the permitted writing instruments and scratch paper provided by the examination proctors, and answering all questions based solely on personal knowledge and understanding. Correct answer is D. Utilizing only the permitted writing instruments and scratch paper provided by the examination proctors, and answering all questions based solely on personal knowledge and understanding. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to succeed in a university entrance exam can lead individuals to consider shortcuts, making it crucial for the exam's regulatory framework to clearly define acceptable and unacceptable practices. The ALMA University entrance exam's guidelines are designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment for all candidates. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the examination instructions provided by ALMA University. This means only using permitted materials and resources, and refraining from any form of external assistance or unauthorized content. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant with the ALMA University entrance exams regulatory framework, which prioritizes original thought and fair competition. It upholds the principles of academic honesty, ensuring that the assessment accurately reflects the candidate's knowledge and abilities without external influence. An incorrect approach would be to consult external study guides or notes during the exam, even if they are perceived as supplementary learning materials. This violates the explicit instructions of the ALMA University entrance exam, which typically prohibits the use of any unauthorized materials. Such an action constitutes academic misconduct, undermining the integrity of the examination process and potentially leading to disqualification. Another incorrect approach would be to share exam content with other prospective students before the exam commences. This action breaches the confidentiality expected of examination candidates and directly contravenes the principles of fairness and equal opportunity that underpin the ALMA University entrance exam. It creates an unfair advantage for those who receive the information and disadvantages those who do not, violating the spirit and letter of the exam's regulations. A further incorrect approach would be to attempt to access or use pre-prepared answers or templates for essay questions, even if these were developed independently. While the content might be original in its creation, using it during the exam implies a lack of genuine, on-the-spot comprehension and application of knowledge, which is what the exam aims to assess. This circumvents the intended evaluation of the candidate's current understanding and problem-solving skills, thereby failing to meet the exam's objectives and violating its integrity. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should always begin with a thorough understanding and internalization of the specific rules and regulations governing the assessment. When faced with ambiguity, candidates should err on the side of caution and seek clarification from the examination proctors or administrators. The paramount principle is to uphold academic integrity and ensure that all actions are transparent and compliant with the established framework. Question 5. Compliance review shows a statistically significant clustering of high scores from a particular external preparatory center on the ALMA University entrance exam, exceeding expected distributions and raising concerns about potential irregularities. Option A. Initiate a formal investigation into the preparatory center's practices and the performance of its students, adhering to ALMA University's established protocols for academic integrity and examination irregularities, while ensuring the confidentiality and rights of all involved. Option B. Issue a public statement acknowledging the statistical anomaly, but stating that no further action will be taken due to the difficulty of proving individual cases of misconduct. Option C. Immediately disqualify all students who attended the preparatory center from consideration for admission, citing the statistical anomaly as definitive proof of misconduct. Option D. Contact the preparatory center directly and demand that they voluntarily withdraw their students' applications to avoid further scrutiny. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal investigation into the preparatory center's practices and the performance of its students, adhering to ALMA University's established protocols for academic integrity and examination irregularities, while ensuring the confidentiality and rights of all involved. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise fairness. The university entrance exam's regulatory framework, as defined by ALMA University's internal guidelines and any overarching national educational standards, mandates a rigorous and impartial assessment process. The challenge lies in discerning whether the observed pattern constitutes a genuine anomaly requiring investigation or a potential breach of examination security and fairness. Careful judgment is required to avoid both overreaction and underreaction, ensuring that the integrity of the admissions process is upheld without unfairly penalizing legitimate candidates or institutions. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based investigation, adhering strictly to ALMA University's established protocols for academic misconduct and examination irregularities. This approach prioritizes the principles of fairness, transparency, and due process. It requires gathering objective data, consulting relevant policies, and engaging appropriate internal committees or individuals responsible for academic integrity. The regulatory justification stems from the university's commitment to upholding the validity of its entrance examinations and ensuring that all applicants are assessed on their own merit, in accordance with ALMA University's academic regulations and any applicable national educational accreditation standards. Ethically, this approach aligns with the professional responsibility to maintain a just and equitable admission system. An incorrect approach that involves immediate, unsubstantiated accusations against specific candidates or examination centers without a thorough investigation fails to adhere to due process. This violates the principle of presumed innocence and can lead to reputational damage for individuals and institutions. It also bypasses established university procedures for handling irregularities, which are designed to ensure fairness and accuracy. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the pattern entirely due to potential administrative burden or fear of controversy, represents a dereliction of duty. This failure to investigate potential breaches of academic integrity undermines the credibility of the entire admissions process and can allow systemic issues to persist, violating the university's obligation to maintain rigorous standards. A third incorrect approach, which is to implement broad, punitive measures affecting all candidates without specific evidence of widespread misconduct, is disproportionate and unfair. This can penalize deserving candidates and create unnecessary anxiety, deviating from the principle of targeted and evidence-based interventions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, identify and document the observed anomaly. Second, consult the relevant ALMA University policies and procedures concerning examination integrity and academic misconduct. Third, initiate a preliminary assessment to determine the nature and potential scope of the irregularity. Fourth, if warranted, commence a formal investigation following established protocols, ensuring all parties have an opportunity to respond. Fifth, base any conclusions and subsequent actions on objective evidence and in strict accordance with regulatory frameworks. Question 6. Benchmark analysis indicates that a senior alumnus of ALMA University has contacted a member of the examination administration team, requesting preferential treatment for a relative applying to the university. The alumnus has implied that their significant past contributions to the university should warrant consideration for their relative's entrance exam performance. The examination administrator is aware of the strict ALMA University entrance exam regulations regarding impartiality and the absolute prohibition of any external influence on the examination process or its outcomes. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and compliant course of action for the examination administrator? Option A. Inform the alumnus that, while direct preferential treatment is not possible, the administrator will ensure the relative's exam paper is reviewed with extra scrutiny to identify any potential areas for leniency. Option B. Forward the alumnus's request directly to the relative, advising them on how to best leverage their family's influence during the examination. Option C. Acknowledge the alumnus's contributions and assure them that their relative will be given every consideration during the examination process, without explicitly mentioning preferential treatment. Option D. Politely decline the alumnus's request, citing ALMA University's strict regulations on examination impartiality and confidentiality, and immediately report the interaction and the alumnus's request to the designated university authority responsible for academic integrity. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the alumnus's request, citing ALMA University's strict regulations on examination impartiality and confidentiality, and immediately report the interaction and the alumnus's request to the designated university authority responsible for academic integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise the fairness of the ALMA University entrance exam. The need for rigorous adherence to established examination protocols is paramount to ensure a level playing field for all applicants and to uphold the reputation of the university. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the ALMA University's established examination regulations and guidelines. This means ensuring that all examination materials are secured, administered according to the prescribed procedures, and that any suspected breaches are handled through the official, documented channels outlined by the university's academic integrity policy. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant as it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and due process, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the entrance examination process. It aligns with the fundamental principles of academic governance that require impartial and standardized evaluation of candidates. An incorrect approach would be to immediately accede to the request from the influential alumnus without proper verification or adherence to university policy. This bypasses established procedures and introduces bias, potentially leading to an unfair advantage for the candidate. This action would violate the university's regulations on examination security and fairness, and could be construed as a breach of ethical conduct by compromising the impartiality of the admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request entirely without any form of acknowledgement or internal reporting. While this avoids direct complicity, it fails to address a potential integrity issue and misses an opportunity to reinforce the importance of the examination's integrity within the university community. It also neglects the university's obligation to have a process for handling such inquiries, however inappropriate they may be. A further incorrect approach would be to discuss the specific details of the examination with the alumnus, or to provide any information that could be construed as preferential treatment. This directly violates the confidentiality and security protocols surrounding examination content and administration, undermining the entire examination process and potentially leading to severe reputational damage for the university. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing the potential conflict of interest and the importance of maintaining academic integrity. 2. Consulting the relevant university policies and procedures regarding examination administration and academic misconduct. 3. Documenting the inquiry and any actions taken. 4. Reporting the situation to the appropriate university authority, e.g., the examinations board or academic registrar, for guidance and action according to established protocols. 5. Prioritizing fairness, impartiality, and adherence to regulations above all else. Question 7. Benchmark analysis indicates that maintaining the integrity of the ALMA University entrance exam is paramount. A prospective applicant, aware of a specific examination room assignment, contacts the admissions office requesting a room change due to a perceived minor inconvenience with the assigned location. How should the admissions office respond to uphold the regulatory framework of the ALMA University entrance exam? Option A. Forward the request to the examination proctor for a discretionary decision on the day of the exam. Option B. Offer to allow the applicant to take the exam in a different, less crowded room at a slightly later time to avoid the perceived inconvenience. Option C. Politely refuse the room change request, explaining that all room assignments are final and adhere to the standardized examination procedures designed to ensure fairness for all candidates. Option D. Grant the room change request to accommodate the applicant, as it is a minor request and demonstrates good customer service. The correct answer is D. Grant the room change request to accommodate the applicant, as it is a minor request and demonstrates good customer service. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the integrity of the university's entrance examination process. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need to maintain a fair and secure examination environment with the potential for external influences or internal pressures that could compromise this integrity. The applicant's request, while seemingly minor, touches upon the fundamental principles of equal opportunity and standardized assessment, requiring careful judgment to uphold the university's commitment to a transparent and equitable admissions process. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a firm but professional refusal of the applicant's request, citing adherence to the established examination regulations and the principle of equal treatment for all candidates. This aligns directly with the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework, which mandates standardized testing conditions to ensure fairness and prevent any candidate from gaining an unfair advantage. Upholding these regulations is an ethical imperative, safeguarding the credibility of the examination and the university's admissions process. It demonstrates a commitment to integrity and impartiality, which are foundational to academic institutions. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that involves granting the applicant's request, even with the intention of being accommodating, would be a direct violation of the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework. This would create a precedent for preferential treatment, undermining the standardized nature of the exam and potentially leading to accusations of bias or unfairness. It would also compromise the integrity of the assessment, as the applicant would not be evaluated under the same conditions as all other candidates. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request without a clear response or justification. This inaction could be misinterpreted as tacit approval or a lack of oversight, potentially leading to further attempts at influencing the examination process or creating an environment where such requests are perceived as acceptable. It fails to uphold the proactive responsibility of maintaining regulatory compliance. A third incorrect approach might involve attempting to find a compromise that deviates from the established regulations, such as offering a slightly modified version of the exam or a different testing time that is still not in line with the standardized procedures. While seemingly an attempt to be helpful, any deviation from the prescribed examination conditions, however small, can introduce inconsistencies and compromise the fairness and comparability of results, thereby violating the spirit and letter of the regulatory framework. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions and examination administration must operate within a strict regulatory framework. The decision-making process should begin with a thorough understanding of all applicable rules, guidelines, and ethical codes. When faced with a request that appears to conflict with these, the first step is to identify the specific regulations that govern the situation. The professional must then assess the potential impact of acceding to the request on the fairness, integrity, and credibility of the process. The decision should always prioritize adherence to the established regulatory framework and ethical principles. If a request cannot be accommodated within these boundaries, a clear, professional, and well-reasoned refusal, referencing the relevant regulations, is the appropriate course of action. This ensures accountability and maintains trust in the institution. Question 8. Operational review demonstrates that a candidate preparing for the ALMA University entrance exam has been utilizing study materials that may not fully align with the officially sanctioned syllabus and examination guidelines. The candidate is concerned about potential noncompliance, but is under significant time pressure to complete their preparation. Which of the following approaches best reflects a responsible and compliant course of action? Option A. Prioritize completing all planned study modules using the existing materials, and address any potential compliance issues only if explicitly raised by the examination authorities. Option B. Immediately cease using any potentially non-compliant materials and consult the official ALMA University entrance exam syllabus and guidelines to identify and acquire approved study resources, seeking clarification from the examination board if any ambiguities remain. Option C. Discreetly seek advice from peers who have previously taken the exam to gauge their understanding of acceptable study materials, without directly contacting the examination board. Option D. Continue using the current study materials, assuming they are sufficiently similar to the official requirements, and focus solely on maximizing the breadth of knowledge covered. The correct answer is B. Immediately cease using any potentially non-compliant materials and consult the official ALMA University entrance exam syllabus and guidelines to identify and acquire approved study resources, seeking clarification from the examination board if any ambiguities remain. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining operational efficiency and adhering to stringent regulatory requirements. The pressure to meet deadlines and deliver results can sometimes lead individuals to overlook or downplay compliance obligations, creating a risk of regulatory breaches. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing demands, ensuring that compliance is not sacrificed for expediency. The correct approach involves proactively identifying potential compliance gaps and implementing corrective actions before they escalate into significant issues. This demonstrates a commitment to regulatory integrity and a responsible approach to operational management. Specifically, it aligns with the ALMA University entrance exam's emphasis on understanding and applying regulatory frameworks. By prioritizing a thorough review and seeking expert guidance, the individual ensures that all actions are compliant with the exam's stipulated regulatory framework, thereby safeguarding against potential penalties and maintaining the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate operational needs without considering regulatory implications is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the foundational principles of regulatory compliance, which are paramount in any examination context. Such an approach risks violating the spirit and letter of the ALMA University Entrance Exams Guidelines, potentially leading to disqualification or other disciplinary actions. Another incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about compliance without verification is equally problematic. This reflects a lack of diligence and a superficial understanding of the importance of regulatory adherence. In a high-stakes environment like a university entrance exam, such assumptions can have severe consequences. Finally, an approach that delays addressing identified compliance issues until they become critical is a failure of professional responsibility. This reactive stance not only increases the likelihood of a breach, but also demonstrates poor risk management and a lack of foresight, which are critical attributes for successful candidates. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of all operational activities against the relevant regulatory framework. This includes identifying potential risks, seeking clarification from authoritative sources when necessary, and prioritizing corrective actions based on their impact on compliance. A proactive and diligent approach, grounded in a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape, is essential for navigating complex operational challenges while upholding ethical and legal standards. Question 9. Stakeholder feedback indicates a growing concern among students regarding the perceived inconsistency in how allegations of academic misconduct are handled at ALMA University. A student has recently approached the administration with a complaint about a peer, alleging a clear violation of the university's academic integrity policy. The student is anxious about potential retaliation and wants the issue addressed swiftly and discreetly, but also expresses a desire for assurance that the university takes such matters seriously and will act decisively. What is the most appropriate initial response from the university administration? Option A. Contact the accused student directly to discuss the allegations and seek their immediate explanation, without first gathering any corroborating evidence or formally documenting the complaint. Option B. Publicly acknowledge that student concerns about academic integrity are being heard and promise a general review of the policy, without initiating an investigation into the specific allegation. Option C. Initiate a formal investigation into the alleged academic misconduct, following ALMA University's established academic integrity policy, ensuring confidentiality, and providing the accused student with due process. Option D. Immediately dismiss the complaint, citing the need to avoid unnecessary disruption and potential negative publicity for the university, and advise the reporting student to focus on their own studies. The correct answer is C. Initiate a formal investigation into the alleged academic misconduct, following ALMA University's established academic integrity policy, ensuring confidentiality, and providing the accused student with due process. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address student concerns promptly and fairly. The university must uphold its established procedures for academic misconduct, while also ensuring that students feel heard and that the process is perceived as equitable. A hasty or overly lenient response could undermine the credibility of the academic integrity policy, while an overly rigid or dismissive approach could alienate students and create a perception of unfairness. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation that adheres strictly to ALMA University's established academic integrity policy. This policy, as outlined in the university's official regulations, provides a clear framework for handling allegations of academic misconduct, including procedures for evidence gathering, student notification, and the determination of appropriate sanctions. By following these established procedures, the university demonstrates its commitment to due process and consistent application of its rules, which is ethically and regulatorily mandated. This ensures that all students are treated equally under the established policy, and that decisions are based on evidence and established precedent, thereby maintaining the integrity of the academic environment. An approach that immediately dismisses the student's concerns without a formal review fails to uphold the university's commitment to its own academic integrity policy. This bypasses the established procedural safeguards designed to ensure fairness and thoroughness, potentially leading to a perception of arbitrary decision-making and a breach of procedural fairness. An approach that focuses solely on appeasing the student to avoid negative feedback without a proper investigation, risks compromising the integrity of the academic misconduct process. This could set a precedent where genuine allegations are not properly addressed, undermining the university's academic standards and potentially violating its regulatory obligations to maintain academic rigor. An approach that involves publicly discussing the specific details of the student's case with other students or faculty not directly involved in the investigation breaches confidentiality and privacy principles, which are often implicitly or explicitly part of university policies and ethical guidelines. This can also prejudice the investigation and create an unfair environment for the student involved. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding and strictly adhering to the university's established policies and procedures for the specific issue at hand, in this case, academic integrity. 2. Prioritizing impartiality and objectivity throughout the process. 3. Ensuring due process for all parties involved. 4. Maintaining confidentiality and respecting privacy. 5. Documenting all actions and decisions thoroughly. 6. Seeking guidance from relevant university departments, e.g., legal counsel, academic affairs, if the situation presents complex ethical or procedural challenges. Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that during the ALMA University entrance exam, an applicant is observed exhibiting behavior that strongly suggests they are attempting to access unauthorized information. What is the most appropriate course of action for the exam invigilator to ensure regulatory compliance and uphold academic integrity? Option A. Immediately confront the applicant privately and ask them to cease the behavior, explaining the potential consequences. Option B. Discreetly document the observed behavior and report it to the designated ALMA University Entrance Exam Examination Board or supervisor according to established university protocol. Option C. Discuss the observed behavior with other applicants to gauge their opinions on the situation. Option D. Ignore the behavior to avoid disrupting the exam and potentially causing distress to the applicant. The correct answer is A. Immediately confront the applicant privately and ask them to cease the behavior, explaining the potential consequences. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate the complex landscape of academic integrity and university policy while also considering the ethical implications of reporting potential misconduct. The pressure to maintain a positive academic environment and uphold the university's standards necessitates careful judgment. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the ALMA University entrance exam regulations concerning academic integrity and the proper channels for reporting suspected violations. This approach is right because it directly adheres to the established procedures designed to ensure fairness and prevent academic dishonesty. By consulting the specific regulations, the individual demonstrates a commitment to due process and avoids making premature judgments or acting outside of authorized protocols. This aligns with the ethical principle of acting with integrity and respecting institutional rules. An incorrect approach of directly confronting the applicant without consulting regulations is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the established reporting mechanisms and could lead to an unfair accusation or an ineffective resolution, potentially violating the applicant's rights or the university's disciplinary procedures. It also fails to leverage the expertise and authority of the designated bodies responsible for handling such matters. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the observation due to a desire to avoid conflict is also professionally unsound. This inaction allows potential academic misconduct to go unaddressed, undermining the integrity of the entrance exam and the university's admissions process. It represents a failure to uphold professional responsibility and contribute to a fair and equitable academic environment. A further incorrect approach of discussing the observation with other applicants or unauthorized personnel is a breach of confidentiality and university policy. This could lead to the spread of misinformation, damage the reputation of the applicant, and create an unprofessional and potentially hostile examination environment, violating ethical standards of discretion and respect. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the potential issue and its implications for academic integrity. 2. Consulting the relevant university policies and regulations, in this case, ALMA University Entrance Exam Guidelines. 3. Following the prescribed reporting procedures, which typically involve notifying a designated authority or invigilator. 4. Maintaining confidentiality throughout the process. 5. Acting impartially and avoiding personal bias. Question 11. Governance review demonstrates that a senior faculty member has strongly recommended a particular candidate for admission to the ALMA University entrance exam, citing personal connections and potential future contributions. The faculty member has implied that favorable consideration would be appreciated. How should the examination administration team proceed to uphold the integrity of the entrance process? Option A. Advise the candidate that their admission is contingent on the faculty member's endorsement and that the examination is a formality. Option B. Ensure the candidate undergoes the standard examination process without any special treatment and document the recommendation and the adherence to protocol. Option C. Discreetly adjust the candidate's score to reflect the faculty member's recommendation, ensuring it appears within a plausible range. Option D. Inform the faculty member that the recommendation will be taken into account and that the candidate will receive preferential grading. The correct answer is B. Ensure the candidate undergoes the standard examination process without any special treatment and document the recommendation and the adherence to protocol. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise the fairness of the entrance examination. The ALMA University entrance exam is designed to assess candidates based on merit, and any deviation from established protocols risks undermining this principle and potentially violating the university's own governance framework and any applicable educational regulations. The pressure to admit a specific candidate, even if well-intentioned, introduces bias and could lead to accusations of unfairness or even corruption, damaging the university's reputation. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established examination procedures and the university's academic integrity policies. This means ensuring that all candidates, regardless of their background or any external recommendations, are evaluated solely on their performance in the examination. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams, as stipulated by ALMA University's internal guidelines and any overarching educational authority, mandates impartiality and objective assessment. Upholding these principles is paramount to maintaining the credibility of the examination process and the university itself. An incorrect approach would be to yield to the pressure and attempt to manipulate the results or create a special pathway for the recommended candidate. This directly violates the principle of equal opportunity and fair assessment, which are foundational to educational institutions. Such an action would be a breach of ethical conduct and likely contravene specific clauses within ALMA University's examination regulations concerning impartiality and the prevention of undue influence. Furthermore, it could expose the university to legal challenges and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the recommendation entirely without proper consideration of the university's established protocols for handling such situations, if any exist. While maintaining integrity is key, a complete disregard for any formal channels for addressing recommendations, if they are part of the university's governance, could be seen as unprofessional or insubordinate, depending on the specific internal policies. However, the primary failure lies in any action that compromises the integrity of the examination itself. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve 1. Understanding and clearly identifying the university's established examination policies and procedures, including any guidelines on handling external recommendations or special circumstances. 2. Prioritizing the principles of academic integrity, fairness, and equal opportunity as enshrined in the university's governance framework. 3. Communicating any concerns or potential conflicts of interest to the appropriate university authorities, e.g., the admissions committee, the academic registrar, in a timely and professional manner. 4. Seeking guidance on how to navigate the situation in strict accordance with the regulatory framework. 5. Ensuring that any decision made is documented and justifiable based on established policies and ethical considerations. Question 12. The assessment process reveals that during a critical section of the ALMA University entrance exam, an invigilator observes a candidate exhibiting behavior that strongly suggests they may be attempting to cheat, such as discreetly looking at notes hidden under their desk. Option A. The invigilator should approach the candidate's desk and verbally warn them about their behavior, advising them to stop immediately without further action. Option B. The invigilator should immediately confiscate the candidate's exam paper and escort them out of the examination hall, informing them they are disqualified for cheating. Option C. The invigilator should inform other candidates in the vicinity about the suspected cheating to ensure they are aware of the rules and to deter similar behavior. Option D. The invigilator should discreetly note the candidate's behavior and the specific details of the observation, then report it to the chief invigilator or examination board for a formal investigation according to ALMA University's examination regulations. The correct answer is B. The invigilator should immediately confiscate the candidate's exam paper and escort them out of the examination hall, informing them they are disqualified for cheating. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in ensuring the integrity and fairness of the ALMA University entrance exam, specifically concerning the handling of potential irregularities. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to uphold academic standards and prevent unfair advantages with the requirement to act impartially and follow established procedures. Misjudgments can lead to compromised exam validity, reputational damage for the university, and unfair outcomes for candidates. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process for addressing suspected irregularities. This typically includes immediate but discreet observation, careful documentation of the observed behavior, and reporting to the designated examination authority or invigilator. The subsequent investigation must be conducted according to ALMA University's established examination regulations, ensuring that the candidate is given an opportunity to respond to any allegations before a final decision is made. This adheres to principles of natural justice and procedural fairness, which are fundamental to any academic or administrative process. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams, as stipulated by ALMA University's internal guidelines, mandates such a structured response to maintain the credibility of the assessment. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the candidate based solely on the invigilator's suspicion, without further investigation or adherence to procedural protocols. This bypasses the university's established disciplinary procedures and could lead to an unjust outcome for the candidate, violating principles of fairness. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the suspected irregularity, which compromises the integrity of the examination process and potentially allows for unfair advantages, thereby failing to uphold the university's commitment to academic honesty. A third incorrect approach is to discuss the suspected irregularity with other candidates or staff not directly involved in the investigation, which breaches confidentiality and could prejudice the investigation, undermining the impartiality required. Professionals in examination administration should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Observation and documentation. Carefully and objectively record any suspicious behavior. 2. Reporting. Promptly report the observation to the appropriate authority as per university policy. 3. Investigation. Cooperate with the official investigation, ensuring all procedures are followed. 4. Impartiality. Maintain objectivity throughout the process, avoiding prejudgment. 5. Confidentiality. Protect the privacy of the candidate and the integrity of the investigation. Question 13. The efficiency study reveals that a proposed new grading system, designed to streamline administrative processes, was developed by a faculty member who also chairs the committee responsible for approving curriculum changes. This faculty member stands to benefit from the proposed system through reduced administrative workload in their own department. What is the most appropriate course of action for ALMA University to ensure regulatory compliance and maintain academic integrity? Option A. Immediately implement the new grading system as it promises significant efficiency gains and was developed by a respected faculty member. Option B. Allow the faculty member who developed the system to oversee its implementation, trusting their judgment and understanding of the system's benefits. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the proposed grading system by an independent ethics committee to assess potential conflicts of interest and ensure alignment with ALMA University's academic integrity policies before any implementation. Option D. Implement the new grading system, but require the faculty member to recuse themselves from any future curriculum change discussions related to grading. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement the new grading system as it promises significant efficiency gains and was developed by a respected faculty member. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a potential conflict of interest scenario that requires careful navigation to uphold regulatory compliance and ethical standards. The challenge lies in balancing the university's pursuit of operational improvements with the imperative to avoid situations that could compromise academic integrity or create unfair advantages. The university must ensure that any proposed efficiency measures are implemented in a manner that is transparent, equitable, and fully compliant with ALMA University's internal policies and any overarching regulatory guidelines governing educational institutions. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the efficiency study's findings by an independent committee, specifically tasked with assessing potential conflicts of interest and ensuring adherence to ALMA University's Code of Conduct and relevant academic integrity regulations. This committee's mandate would be to evaluate the study's recommendations objectively, considering whether any proposed changes could disproportionately benefit certain individuals or groups, or if they could inadvertently lead to biased decision-making in resource allocation or academic evaluations. Regulatory justification stems from the fundamental principle of maintaining a fair and unbiased academic environment, which is often underpinned by institutional policies, and in some cases, broader educational governance frameworks that prohibit conflicts of interest and mandate transparent processes. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement the efficiency study's recommendations without a formal conflict of interest assessment. This failure would violate the principle of due diligence and could expose the university to accusations of impropriety or favoritism. Specifically, it would disregard the ethical obligation to ensure that decisions are made in the best interest of the entire university community, not just those who may have influenced or stand to gain from the proposed efficiencies. Another incorrect approach would be to delegate the review solely to the department that conducted the efficiency study. This creates an inherent conflict, as the department may be predisposed to defend its findings and overlook potential ethical or regulatory breaches. This approach fails to establish the necessary independence and objectivity required for a credible review, thereby undermining trust and potentially leading to the adoption of flawed or unethical practices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, identify the potential for conflicts of interest or ethical breaches. Second, consult relevant university policies and any applicable external regulations. Third, establish an independent review mechanism, such as a dedicated committee, to assess the findings and recommendations objectively. Fourth, ensure transparency in the review process and in the communication of decisions. Finally, implement approved changes with ongoing monitoring to ensure continued compliance and ethical conduct. Question 14. Benchmark analysis indicates that candidates for the ALMA University entrance exam are provided with a set of specific instructions detailing permitted and prohibited items and behaviors during the examination period. A candidate, while preparing for the exam, recalls general guidelines from previous academic assessments, but has not yet reviewed the official ALMA University entrance exam instructions. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to the regulatory framework for this specific exam? Option A. Actively seeking out and thoroughly reviewing the official ALMA University entrance exam instructions to understand all specific requirements before the exam. Option B. Proceeding with exam preparation based on general knowledge of academic assessment rules, assuming they are universally applicable. Option C. Relying on advice from peers who have taken similar university entrance exams, without verifying the information against the official ALMA University entrance exam guidelines. Option D. Assuming that any item or behavior not explicitly mentioned as prohibited in a general academic context is permissible for the ALMA University entrance exam. The correct answer is B. Proceeding with exam preparation based on general knowledge of academic assessment rules, assuming they are universally applicable. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate the complex landscape of academic integrity and regulatory compliance within the specific framework of the ALMA University entrance exam. The core difficulty lies in identifying and adhering to the precise rules governing the exam's administration and the acceptable use of external resources, ensuring fairness and validity of the assessment process. Misinterpreting or disregarding these rules can lead to serious consequences, including disqualification and damage to the university's reputation. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the ALMA University entrance exam's explicit guidelines regarding permitted materials and prohibited actions. This approach prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework, recognizing that the exam is designed to assess an individual's knowledge and abilities independently. By strictly following the rules, the individual upholds the principles of academic honesty and ensures a fair evaluation for all candidates. This aligns with the fundamental ethical obligation to act with integrity and respect the integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach would be to assume that any resource not explicitly forbidden is permitted. This demonstrates a failure to proactively understand and comply with the specific regulations of the ALMA University entrance exam. The ethical failure here is a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the spirit of the examination, which aims to test individual merit. Another incorrect approach is to rely on general knowledge of exam conduct without consulting the specific rules for the ALMA University entrance exam. This is a regulatory failure because it overlooks the unique requirements of this particular assessment. Ethically, it suggests a casual attitude towards a significant academic undertaking. A further incorrect approach is to interpret ambiguous rules in a way that benefits the individual without seeking clarification. This is both a regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to transparency and fairness, potentially exploiting loopholes rather than adhering to the intended spirit of the regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Proactive familiarization with all relevant regulations and guidelines for the specific assessment. 2. Seeking clarification from the examination authorities for any ambiguities. 3. Prioritizing strict adherence to the letter and spirit of the rules. 4. Acting with integrity and ensuring fairness to all participants. Question 15. Upon reviewing the ALMA University entrance exam application instructions, a prospective student is unsure about the extent to which they can seek feedback or assistance on their personal essay from individuals outside the university. The instructions mention a commitment to academic integrity and original work, but do not explicitly detail the boundaries of permissible external input on application essays. What is the most appropriate course of action for the student to ensure compliance with ALMA University's regulations? Option A. Submit the essay without seeking further clarification, relying on general knowledge of academic integrity principles to guide their approach. Option B. Proceed with the essay, assuming that any feedback or minor edits from friends or family are acceptable as long as the core content remains the student's own ideas. Option C. Proactively contact the ALMA University admissions office or the designated exam administrator to request specific clarification on the acceptable level of external assistance for the personal essay. Option D. Ask a current student at ALMA University for their interpretation of the essay guidelines and how they approach their own application. The correct answer is C. Proactively contact the ALMA University admissions office or the designated exam administrator to request specific clarification on the acceptable level of external assistance for the personal essay. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The ALMA University entrance exam, like many academic institutions, has strict guidelines to ensure a fair and equitable assessment process. Navigating these rules requires careful judgment to uphold ethical standards while understanding the practical implications for applicants. The correct approach involves a student proactively seeking clarification on the permissible scope of external assistance for their application essay. This demonstrates an understanding of and respect for ALMA University's academic integrity policies. Specifically, it aligns with the principle of original work and the prohibition of plagiarism or misrepresentation of one's own abilities. By asking for guidance, the student is not attempting to circumvent the rules, but rather to ensure compliance, thereby safeguarding their application from potential disqualification due to a misunderstanding of the guidelines. This proactive communication is a cornerstone of ethical conduct in academic and professional settings. An incorrect approach would be to assume that any form of external input on the essay is acceptable, provided it is not direct copying. This fails to recognize that university entrance exams often require a demonstration of the applicant's individual thought processes and writing skills, relying on significant external editing or content generation, even if not verbatim plagiarism, could be seen as misrepresenting the applicant's own capabilities, and thus violates the spirit of the academic integrity policy. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the guidelines entirely and proceed with the essay without considering the rules on external assistance. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the established procedures of the examination. Such an oversight could lead to an unintentional violation of the rules, potentially resulting in the rejection of the application. A further incorrect approach would be to seek advice from individuals who are not official representatives of ALMA University regarding the interpretation of the exam's rules. This could lead to receiving inaccurate or misleading information, which would not absolve the student of responsibility if they subsequently violate the stated regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to understanding and adhering to all stated rules and guidelines. When in doubt, the paramount step is to seek clarification directly from the official source, in this case, ALMA University's admissions office or the designated contact for the entrance exam. This ensures that actions taken are informed and compliant, thereby protecting one's academic and professional standing. Question 16. Benchmark analysis indicates that prospective students often seek to maximize their performance on high-stakes examinations. Considering the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework, which emphasizes original work and fair assessment, which of the following actions would be considered a violation of academic integrity and exam regulations? Option A. Relying solely on personal knowledge and understanding to answer all exam questions without consulting any external resources during the examination period. Option B. Practicing with sample questions provided by ALMA University on their official website to gauge the exam's format and difficulty. Option C. Reviewing general subject matter textbooks and lecture notes from previous academic courses in the weeks leading up to the exam. Option D. Utilizing a comprehensive set of pre-written notes and external study guides that were prepared prior to the exam to inform answers during the exam. The correct answer is A. Relying solely on personal knowledge and understanding to answer all exam questions without consulting any external resources during the examination period. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to succeed in a university entrance exam, especially one as critical as ALMA University's, can lead individuals to consider shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in upholding ethical standards and regulatory compliance within the examination framework, even when faced with external pressures or perceived advantages. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate preparation and academic misconduct. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework, which emphasizes original work and prohibits the use of unauthorized materials or assistance. This means relying solely on one's own knowledge and understanding, as demonstrated through the exam questions themselves. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams, like the ALMA University entrance exam, typically mandates that all submitted work must be the student's own, reflecting their individual learning and capabilities. This principle is fundamental to ensuring a fair and equitable assessment process, preventing an unfair advantage for some students over others, and maintaining the credibility of the university's admission standards. Ethical guidelines for academic institutions universally condemn plagiarism and the use of unauthorized aids, as these undermine the very purpose of education and assessment. An incorrect approach that involves consulting external study guides or pre-prepared answers during the exam is a direct violation of academic integrity rules. This constitutes a breach of the ALMA University entrance exams regulations, which implicitly or explicitly require candidates to complete the assessment independently. Such an action provides an unfair advantage, misrepresents the candidate's true abilities, and undermines the validity of the examination process. Another incorrect approach, such as sharing exam content with other prospective students before or during the exam period, also violates academic integrity and potentially specific exam regulations designed to maintain the security and fairness of the assessment. This can be considered a form of collusion or aiding and abetting academic dishonesty. A third incorrect approach, such as fabricating personal achievements or qualifications to gain an advantage, is a form of misrepresentation and dishonesty, which directly contravenes the ethical principles expected of all applicants and the regulatory requirements for accurate self-disclosure in admissions processes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the specific rules and regulations governing the examination. This involves familiarizing oneself with the ALMA University entrance exams guidelines on academic integrity, acceptable conduct, and prohibited materials. When faced with a temptation to deviate from these rules, a professional should engage in a self-reflection process, considering the potential consequences of their actions, both immediate e.g., disqualification, and long-term e.g., damage to reputation. The guiding principle should always be adherence to ethical standards and regulatory requirements, prioritizing honesty and fairness above all else. If there is any ambiguity regarding what constitutes acceptable conduct, seeking clarification from the examination administrators is the appropriate course of action. Question 17. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to developing new admission pathways for the ALMA University entrance exam. Considering the exam's regulatory framework, which of the following approaches best ensures compliance and maintains the integrity of the admission process? Option A. Consulting with marketing and recruitment specialists to design admission pathways that enhance the university's appeal, with a secondary consideration for regulatory compliance. Option B. Prioritizing the creation of admission pathways that are most likely to attract a diverse range of applicants, even if their alignment with the specific ALMA University entrance exam regulations requires some interpretation. Option C. Developing new admission pathways based on a comprehensive review of the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework and seeking expert legal counsel on their interpretation and implementation. Option D. Introducing innovative admission pathways that align with general best practices in higher education admissions, assuming they will be acceptable under the exam's regulations. The correct answer is C. Developing new admission pathways based on a comprehensive review of the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework and seeking expert legal counsel on their interpretation and implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the imperative of adhering to the ALMA University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying these regulations to a novel situation, ensuring that any strategic decision does not inadvertently lead to non-compliance. Careful judgment is required to avoid misinterpretations that could compromise the integrity of the entrance process or lead to reputational damage for the university. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework to identify provisions that govern the development and implementation of admission policies. This approach is correct because it prioritizes adherence to the established rules and guidelines, ensuring that all strategic planning is conducted within the legally and ethically permissible boundaries set by the exam's jurisdiction. Specifically, it aligns with the principle of regulatory compliance, which is paramount in any educational institution's admission processes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on market trends without consulting the exam's regulations would fail to acknowledge the binding nature of the ALMA University entrance exams framework. This would be a regulatory failure, as it disregards the specific legal and procedural requirements that dictate how admissions can be structured. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes perceived student demand over regulatory stipulations would also be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. It demonstrates a disregard for the established rules designed to ensure fairness and equity in the entrance examination process. A third incorrect approach that involves seeking external advice without verifying its alignment with the ALMA University entrance exam-specific regulations risks introducing non-compliant practices, leading to a regulatory failure. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the relevant regulatory landscape. This involves actively seeking out, reading, and interpreting the ALMA University entrance exams regulations. Subsequently, any strategic initiative should be evaluated against these regulations to ensure full compliance. If there is ambiguity, seeking clarification from the appropriate regulatory bodies or legal counsel specializing in educational admissions within the specified jurisdiction is crucial. The ultimate decision must be one that demonstrably upholds the integrity and requirements of the ALMA University entrance exam. Question 18. Examination of the data shows that the ALMA University Entrance Exam Admissions Committee is facing pressure to increase the enrollment of students from underrepresented backgrounds to meet institutional diversity targets for the upcoming academic year. However, several applications from candidates who narrowly miss the standard academic cutoff scores, but who come from these underrepresented groups, have been flagged for potential admission. The committee is debating how to proceed to balance the university's commitment to diversity with the integrity of the established admission criteria. Option A. Admit candidates from underrepresented backgrounds who narrowly miss the academic cutoff, prioritizing diversity targets over strict adherence to the published score requirements. Option B. Review all applications holistically, considering qualitative factors and potential for success alongside academic scores, to identify candidates who meet the spirit of the admission criteria and contribute to diversity goals. Option C. Exclusively admit candidates who meet or exceed the standard academic cutoff scores, regardless of their background, to maintain the highest academic standards. Option D. Create a separate, lower academic threshold specifically for candidates from underrepresented backgrounds to ensure their admission. The correct answer is B. Review all applications holistically, considering qualitative factors and potential for success alongside academic scores, to identify candidates who meet the spirit of the admission criteria and contribute to diversity goals. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's desire to attract a diverse student body and the strict adherence to admission criteria designed to ensure academic preparedness. The pressure to meet diversity targets can inadvertently lead to a temptation to bend or misinterpret established rules, which is a significant ethical and regulatory risk. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with the integrity of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all applications against the published admission criteria, with a specific focus on identifying candidates who meet the academic thresholds, while also demonstrating potential through other qualitative factors that align with the university's diversity objectives. This approach upholds regulatory compliance by ensuring that all admissions decisions are based on established, transparent, and consistently applied standards. Ethically, it promotes fairness and equal opportunity by treating all applicants equitably, regardless of their background, while still allowing for the consideration of holistic factors within the defined framework. The ALMA University entrance exam regulations likely emphasize meritocracy and fairness, and this approach directly aligns with those principles. An incorrect approach that prioritizes meeting diversity quotas by lowering academic entry standards for certain groups would be a direct violation of regulatory frameworks governing university admissions. This would undermine the academic rigor of the institution and could lead to accusations of unfairness and discrimination against applicants who met the original criteria. It fails to adhere to the principle of equal treatment and could expose the university to reputational damage and potential legal challenges. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore diversity considerations entirely and only focus on the highest academic scores, would also be problematic. While seemingly adhering to academic merit, it might contravene broader institutional policies or guidelines that encourage diversity and inclusivity, which are often implicitly or explicitly supported by regulatory bodies aiming for well-rounded educational environments. This approach fails to consider the holistic development goals of the university and the societal benefits of a diverse student body, potentially missing out on qualified candidates who could contribute significantly to the university community. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's stated admission policies and any overarching regulatory or ethical guidelines. When faced with competing priorities, professionals should first consult the official documentation to understand the boundaries and permissible actions. If ambiguity exists, seeking clarification from supervisors or relevant committees is crucial. The decision should always prioritize fairness, transparency, and adherence to established rules, while also considering how to achieve institutional goals within those parameters. This involves a commitment to objective evaluation and a willingness to defend decisions based on documented criteria and ethical principles. Question 19. Assessment of a situation where a proctor observes a candidate exhibiting unusual behavior during the ALMA University entrance exam, potentially indicating an attempt to access unauthorized information, requires the proctor to determine the most appropriate course of action in strict adherence to ALMA University's examination regulations and academic integrity guidelines. Option A. Provide the candidate with a warning about exam conduct and allow them to continue the examination without further scrutiny. Option B. Report the observed behavior to a supervisor and await further instructions before taking any action. Option C. Immediately confront the candidate and confiscate their examination materials, citing suspected academic misconduct. Option D. Discreetly observe the candidate's behavior throughout the remainder of the examination and document all suspicious activities for a post-examination review by the appropriate university committee. The correct answer is C. Immediately confront the candidate and confiscate their examination materials, citing suspected academic misconduct. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of academic integrity while upholding the reputation and standards of ALMA University. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need to support a student's academic journey with the imperative to prevent academic misconduct and ensure a fair assessment process for all candidates. A careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate academic assistance and actions that could be construed as facilitating cheating or plagiarism. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial investigation into the student's submission, adhering strictly to ALMA University's established academic integrity policy. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to the university's regulations. By following the defined procedures, the individual ensures that any decision made is based on evidence and aligns with the university's commitment to academic honesty. This upholds the integrity of the entrance examination and the value of the qualifications awarded by ALMA University. An incorrect approach that involves directly providing the student with answers or solutions to the exam questions represents a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This action constitutes aiding and abetting academic misconduct, directly violating ALMA University's academic integrity policy and undermining the fairness of the entrance examination. It creates an unfair advantage for the student and devalues the efforts of other candidates who have prepared honestly. Another incorrect approach, that of ignoring the potential issue and proceeding with the assessment without any inquiry, is also professionally unacceptable. This failure to act demonstrates a disregard for the university's regulatory framework and ethical obligations. It allows potential academic misconduct to go unchecked, which can erode the credibility of the examination process and the institution itself. It also fails to provide a fair assessment of the student's actual knowledge and abilities. A third incorrect approach, that of immediately disqualifying the student without a proper investigation, can also be problematic. While swift action might seem decisive, it can lead to an unjust outcome if the initial suspicion is unfounded or if there are mitigating circumstances that were not considered. This approach bypasses the due process outlined in ALMA University's policies, potentially leading to unfair penalization and reputational damage to the university if the decision is later found to be erroneous. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic approach. First, recognizing a potential breach of academic integrity. Second, consulting the relevant university policies and guidelines. Third, gathering objective evidence. Fourth, conducting a fair and impartial investigation. And finally, applying the prescribed sanctions or remedial actions based on the findings and university regulations. This structured process ensures that decisions are defensible, ethical, and compliant with regulatory requirements. Question 20. Which approach would be most effective in assessing a student's understanding of the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory framework, ensuring deep analysis and strict jurisdictional compliance? Option A. Implementing an open book examination where students can refer to any regulatory text without specific guidance on how to apply the ALMA University entrance exam's framework. Option B. Developing scenario-based questions that require students to apply the ALMA University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework to a hypothetical situation. Option C. Designing an assessment that includes questions based on general principles of regulatory compliance, drawing from various international frameworks. Option D. Creating a comprehensive quiz that tests factual recall of specific clauses and dates from the ALMA University entrance exam's regulatory documents. The correct answer is B. Developing scenario-based questions that require students to apply the ALMA University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework to a hypothetical situation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to fairly assess a student's understanding of complex regulatory frameworks. The challenge lies in identifying a method of assessment that accurately reflects a student's grasp of the ALMA University entrance exam-specific regulatory requirements without resorting to rote memorization or superficial understanding. The chosen approach must be both effective in evaluating learning and compliant with the exam's stated jurisdictional focus. The correct approach involves designing an assessment that requires the application of the specified regulatory framework to a novel, yet plausible, scenario. This method is correct because it directly tests the student's ability to interpret and apply the ALMA University entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, as mandated by the exam's design. It moves beyond simple recall to assess deeper comprehension and analytical skills, aligning with the exam's objective of evaluating a student's readiness for university-level study within that specific regulatory context. This approach ensures that the assessment is not only jurisdictionally compliant, but also a robust measure of the student's preparedness. An incorrect approach that relies solely on multiple-choice questions, testing factual recall of specific regulatory clauses, would be professionally unacceptable. This is because it fails to adequately assess the student's ability to apply the regulations in a practical context, which is a core requirement for demonstrating understanding within a specific jurisdictional framework. Another incorrect approach, such as incorporating questions from unrelated regulatory bodies, would be a direct violation of the strict jurisdictional compliance requirement of the ALMA University entrance exam, leading to an invalid and unfair assessment. Finally, an approach that allows for open-ended essay responses without clear grading rubrics tied to the specific regulatory framework would introduce subjectivity and fail to provide a consistent and objective measure of the student's understanding of the required jurisdiction. Professionals tasked with designing such assessments should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes alignment with the stated objectives and constraints of the examination. This involves first thoroughly understanding the specific regulatory framework and the desired learning outcomes. Subsequently, assessment methods should be evaluated for their ability to measure the application of these regulations within the defined jurisdiction, ensuring fairness, validity, and strict adherence to all exam guidelines.